The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 168. A solid performance against Central Michigan sets the stage for Under the Lights at the Big House 2. Coming up next, our Michigan Notre Dame preview show.
Oh man, Euchre's been broadcasting for 27 years. I have never seen anything like this. They need 2 inches. Dennis Franklin, the quarterback, taking a long count from center. He heads off to Shuttlesworth 5, and it's down to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Dennis Franklin! Oh my God, Dennis Franklin fooled everybody. He fooled me. He fooled the entire Ohio State team. Kneeling is Larry Gustafson. Attempting will be Super Toe. Super Toe will kick the 30-yard field goal. It's kicked to send over there. It's a tied-up ball game. 10-10. Okay. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Carter ends up. Carter's there. Oh my God! Carter scores! Look at those Wolverines. 95 Wolverines going in the end zone. Carter got the pass in the air. It's done. Buford is going out of his mind. I have never seen anything like this in all my 40 years of covering Michigan football.
This is the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Well, under mostly sunny skies and steamy temperatures, the Wolverines kicked off the season on Saturday with a resounding 59-9 victory over Central Michigan. This week, the first real test of the season, with Notre Dame paying a final visit to the Big House, at least for the foreseeable future. On our visitor segment today, we'll get the Notre Dame angle on Saturday's game from Lou Somogyi, the longtime editor of Blue and Gold Illustrated, the official magazine of the Fighting Irish. Then on our Michigan Gameday, we'll be joined by the angel of the Big House, Michigan beat writer Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News. Before all that, let's get started with my view from Section 17. You couldn't ask for a better performance than Michigan turned in on Saturday. I thought the defense was suffocating. Coach Madison rotated on the D front as he wanted to, and the secondary, for the most part, looked sharp. On offense, we got to see most of our stable of young running backs, and they all ran hard. The only bad news came on Monday when it was announced that freshman running back Drake Johnson had torn his ACL and he was done for the season. Drake had earned the number 2 spot on the depth chart entering the season, coming off an impressive spring and even more impressive fall camp. Coach Hoke announced on Monday that Derek Green is now at number 2 on the depth chart, which shouldn't come as a surprise to any of us after seeing him run on Saturday. So I think all in all, most of us were satisfied on Saturday. What does that mean for this week? I'm not sure anyone knows what to expect against the Fighting Irish this Saturday. We will learn a lot more about this team, especially the young interior of the offensive line. Notre Dame opened the season with a solid but not spectacular performance against Temple. But don't be fooled, this Fighting Irish squad is loaded with talent, especially on the defensive side. I don't think anyone would disagree that this will be the best defensive unit Michigan will face this year. They are big, strong, and fast at every position group. To get the inside scoop on this year's Fighting Irish, I talked Monday with Lou Somogyi, the longtime editor of the Notre Dame magazine Blue and Gold Illustrated. And I apologize in advance for the audio quality. Lou had a busy day on Monday, so we recorded this while he was on the run, and his cell phone quality was not what we would like. Nonetheless, Lou is up next on our visitor segment here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. With us today on our visitor segment is Lou Somogyi, who is the senior editor at Blue and Gold Illustrated. And Lou, for the third year in a row, it's great to have you back on the show. Another installment of this great rivalry coming up this weekend at the Big House. And the Irish, of course, Lou, started the season off Saturday with a 28-6 win over Temple. Tommy Rees was 13 for 26, and most importantly, I'm sure Coach Kelly would say this, he didn't throw any picks, so it was a nice start for Tommy, who really does need to play big and be a solid leader if this offense wants to progress this season. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the older cliches in coaching. Tommy doesn't have to win the game for him. His first objective is not to lose it. He played efficiently. He played well.
Theo Riddick and Sierra Wood are gone. George Atkinson the third, Cam McDaniel, and Amir Carlisle are the three backs we hear most about. Talk about those three guys, and who do you think from that group could emerge as maybe a 20 to 30 carry a game type of guy?
That's not going to happen with this team. There's nobody who's going to be 20, 30 carry. I don't know if there might be somebody who's a 15 carry guy. Cam McDaniel had 12, but that was kind of more so to run the clock and everything. No, I don't see a 20 carry individual there.
Okay, so it's pretty much running back by committee or just ride the hot hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lou, rounding out the offense, then you've got wide receiver T.J. Jones, Davaris Daniels, and tight end Troy Nicholas leading the way in the receiving corps, and you've got three starters back in that offensive line. Does the coaching staff fully expect this offense to be more productive than last year's?
Absolutely. They averaged 25 points a game last year. You look at the top 6 teams that finished in the final 8 poll. None of them, other than Notre Dame, finished with less than 37 points per game average. Notre Dame was at 25. Morgan was at about 49, etc. I think certainly if you're going to be of that BCS caliber again this year, I think you need to get to that 30. Last year, Kyle Bremser kicked a school record 23 field goals. I think you'd want to slice that into half by getting about 12 more touchdowns than you did the previous.
Our guest on the show today as we get ready for Saturday night and under the lights of the Big House 2 is Lou Somogyi, who is the senior editor at Blue and Gold Illustrated. Lou, let's talk about this Notre Dame defense. Coach Bob Diaco mentioned this summer that you have to recreate your team and your defense each year, even when you do have a lot of folks coming back. But it makes it easier when you have a front led by future NFL guys like Stephon Tuitt and Louis Nix, doesn't it?
Yeah, both are projected. I think in the latest big board they had Louis Nix was number 3 behind Ja'Tavion Clowney and Bridgewater, the quarterback at Louisville, and Tuitt was at 11. But, either had their optimum performance against Temple necessarily.
Well, behind those big guys, the linebacking core is led by Dan Fox and Carlo Calabrese. With you've got talented Jared Grace joining that crew. Then back in the secondary, a lot of experience for the Irish with Kavare Russell, Bennett Jackson, free safety Matthias Farley. I would think the expectations are that this defense should perform again at a very high level this season. And that would be a safe assumption, wouldn't it?
They have a couple of new stars there with Austin Collinsworth. And Matthias Farley started the last 11 games there last season. He's been kind of a leader that they've been hoping to emerge a little bit more this season. It wasn't the cleanest game there against Temple. They were giving up a lot of the dinks and dunks, which, the old saying when Barry Alvarez was the coordinator here was, we'll trade 5 yards for a headache, for whoever catches the ball. But there's a lot of room for improvement, and that's the main thing you take from Temple. It wasn't as crisp or as dominant as people might expect, but heck, I'm sure people at Alabama are saying the same thing, and they're just fine with that 35-10 victory over Virginia Tech. You come away with a win, and you just build on it from there. Sometimes it's the ideal situation when you don't necessarily play well against an inferior team, and that really keeps you alert and at full concentration for a team that if you perform the same way like that, you're going to get beat.
Well, Lou, Coach Hoke got the bulletin board material started in May when he said that Notre Dame was chickening out in opting out of the series, and that's, as we all know, has gotten a lot of play since May. Is that the kind of a statement that, just gets Notre Dame fans cranked up, or does it resonate with the players too?
I can't speak for the players. I mean, the fans always love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think Lou Holtz once said that a coach should never be held accountable for what he says in a pep rally or in front of a booster club or alumni club. But hey, if it serves as a motivating force or whatever like that, hey, that's great. But you know what? Once you strap it on and you get between the white lines, it's about execution. It's not about what somebody said in July or things like that.
Well, that's right. It's all a part of the fun. I do think the fans take it more personally than the players do, but it's all part of the build-up for the game. So there it is. Any injuries, Lou, to speak of coming out of Saturday's opener with Temple for the Irish?
No, nothing as serious. I mean, DeVaris Daniels had a bit of a groin pull there, but he's been clear for full duty on Tuesday. And he could have actually played the remainder of the game on Saturday after he was taken out in the first half.
Well, this Saturday night, then, both teams will be in pretty good shape physically, and, of course, it's under the lights at the Big House, too. We've got national TV. We've got ESPN Gameday there. Lou, a Notre Dame-Michigan matchup doesn't really need all of that to be special, but it does sure make for a great atmosphere, doesn't it?
Always. That game-type situation, it brings out the best, I think, in both teams.
We have seen some great games in this series over the years since 1979, and of course with Michigan's first night game a couple of years ago under the lights at the Big House, a classic game. I guess if you're a Notre Dame fan, you didn't enjoy that classic game. But coming into this Saturday night, I saw the game Saturday, was at the Michigan game Saturday. To me, there's still a lot of question marks for both teams heading into the game. But given what we do know, what type of a game do you expect we're going to see between these two great rivals on Saturday night?
Since 1978, these two teams have met 29 times. Well, it's 14-1. It's probably even a top one. 20 of those 29 games have come down to the final possession, if not the final second. Right. So what is like the tipping point of that? One is turnovers, but the other, and always these type of close games, special teams. Whether it's Harry Oliver and his 51-yard field goal, or Remy Hamilton for Michigan, or kick returns by Rocket, or someone from Michigan, block punts, or whatever. It is so pivotal, and that is an area when we talk about cleaning things up. That's where Notre Dame really had some problems against Temple. Lost some field position there with net punts of only like 26 and 17 yards that went into the end zone. One punt was fielded at the 5-yard line, another kind of was let bounce to the 13. And, that field position battle is just so crucial. You missed a couple of field goals there, one from 39 by one kicker, one from 44 by the other. That's an area that, at worst, you want to be maybe at a stalemate.
So it's going to be fascinating to see this Saturday night under the lights at the Big House, too. Our guest has been Lou Somogyi today on our visitor segment. Lou is the senior editor at Blue and Gold Illustrated. As always, Lou, it's been a pleasure, and we look forward to having you back on next season.
All right. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks again to Lou Somogyi for being our guest again this year on our visitor segment. Lou is the editor of the Blue and Gold Illustrated, official magazine of Notre Dame Athletics. And we apologize again for the audio quality. Lou was on the run Monday, and we were doing the interview on his cell phone, and the quality was not what we would like. But we hope you enjoyed hearing from Lou anyway. Coming up next is our Michigan Game Day segment, and our guest will be the angel of the Big House, Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News, here on the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. With us on Michigan Game Day this week, Michigan beat writer Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News to take a look back at the victory over Central Michigan on Saturday and then a look ahead to the big game on Saturday under the lights at the Big House 2. Great to have you back on the show, Angelique.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. It's hard to believe it's September, and hard to believe that they've already played a game, and hard to believe that Notre Dame is coming into Ann Arbor for another night game. So it's just it's upon us.
It's upon us, and it all started on Saturday. So, Angelique, before we talk about under the lights at the Big House 2, let's look back at that 59-9 win over the Chippewas on Saturday. Michigan had a chance to go deep into the roster for playing time with a lot of young guys against Central Michigan, pick up a lot of points, played some good defense, and you really can't ask for more than that in an opener, can you?
You really can, and I think that's exactly what Brady Hoke was hoping for, and he knows how young his roster is, Mike. We all know it. I mean, we've looked at we've looked at the roster and looked at the freshmen and the redshirt freshmen and the sophomores who don't have much experience on there, and they're they're peppering this depth chart. So I think this was an ideal game for Michigan to open with, and they had it under control pretty early, and that gave them the luxury and flexibility to get these young guys in, and like Derek Green and like Shane Morris, and I thought that was important for two guys like that to get in there, and we saw it across the board, offense and defense, and this is exactly what they wanted heading into Notre Dame and heading into the rest of the season.
And from an offensive perspective, Angelique, great to see Fitz Toussaint get back into action. He took a couple of pops early. He bounced back up, looked good, and we got to see a lot of the rest of that young stable of backs. So that was a good thing, too.
It was a good thing. And I think for Fitz, he was saying after the game that, yes, it's been an emotional road since his broken leg that he suffered in the final home game last season, and he's really made a remarkable recovery. And the last time he'd been in that stadium, aside from a scrimmage, but on a game day, he was being carted off there with a broken leg and a pretty severely broken leg. So I think emotionally this was good for him to get this game out of the way, to take those pops, like you said, and to get some kind of rhythm. I mean, he got 14 carries. He wasn't in there a lot, but he got back into the swing of things. And you're right. As Fred Jackson had promised the running backs coach, he wanted to get the depth of tailbacks. He wanted to get these guys on the field, and he did. The only negative is that Drake Johnson left the field with what the Michigan Radio Network announced reported was a sprained knee. So that could be a little bit of a concern, but otherwise it was good for this running back to get the kind of carries they got.
And Devin Gardner, in his not his first start, he had his 5 starts last year, but coming down that tunnel for the first time, knowing he was the man this year, threw a couple of picks, had some bad reads, as he even talked about after the game, but in the end, he just gave us a great glimpse into just how dangerous he can be, and in so many ways, didn't he?
He really did, Mike. And he talked about, when I asked him after the game what he thought he did well, and he went with game management. He thought he did that very well, and right away mentioned the negatives, those 2 picks, and really execution errors, especially the first one. And he was disappointed in himself, but didn't beat himself up about that. I mean, knows that he has to learn and move on. But I think you're right. We saw some real promise, and it's funny. I mean, you mentioned that this was his first game, and then corrected yourself. I thought that too. Yeah, he played those 5 games last year, but that was Denard's team, and Devin kept saying that even when he was getting those starts. But this is Devin's team. He looked like he enjoyed being the leader on the field and the leader of this offense. And I really liked his composure during the game, even after the interceptions, and his composure afterwards when he was talking to us. I mean, he just looks like a guy who's really got it together, and I think that's part of the growth that we've seen really since the end of last season when he started getting all that playing time.
And over on the defensive side, Angelique, most of us anticipated this defense would be good this year, and it was on Saturday. The safeties played, I thought, very well. We got to see the front bring pressure without blitzing, which has been a point of emphasis for Coach Madison since last season. And other than some poor tackling, which Coach Hoke talked about after the game, and we normally see this time of the season, there really wasn't much negative that you could say about the performance on Saturday, was there?
There really wasn't. I mean, Central, yeah, they had obviously their running back went out with an injury, and they had 66 yards rushing, and They took 4 sacks. Cam Gordon had 2 of those sacks, and he's filling in for Jake Ryan as Jake continues his rehab from his knee injury in the spring. I thought they were really solid. And you got good production out of Desmond Morgan. He led the team in tackles. And I thought that, obviously, we saw a lot of different things in that game. A really nice special teams play to get points on the board first. And then Raymond Taylor had an interception. And those are the kinds of things that this defense need to be productive in getting turnovers and generating them. And as you said, getting sacks, that was a focus of Greg Madison since the end of last season. The numbers were down. And I do think we saw a lot of fresh legs too. The rotation that he has promised, and Madison has talked about having a first string like a 1A and a 1B, and being able to just weave people in and out without any drop off. I think that we saw a lot of that, and having that under their belts, these young guys, I think certainly can't hurt them, and it's going to go a long way to helping them as they move on this season.
Well, when you look back, just a final thought then on the opener, Angelique, it's hard to learn a lot in a lopsided game like that. We were happy to see the offense, we think, move well and the defense looked solid, but was there anything that you learned new about Team 134, or this was what you expected?
For the most part, it's what I expected. I thought they'd win big. I thought maybe not as big a margin of victory. I thought there maybe would be a few more mistakes out there just because it's such a young group. But I was very interested to see the interior of the offensive line, to see how they performed. And I think it's too early to grade them. But I would say they did an okay job. I don't think we had an opportunity to see them against a great defensive line to see like they'll face against Notre Dame on Saturday night. But I think, again, this was really about knocking the rust off, getting into kind of a game mode and game feel and game speed. And I think that with the inexperience on that offensive line between the tackles, I think that these guys got that kind of experience that they really need. And I thought it was good to see Derek Green out there. People have been really wanting to see what he can do. He came into camp a bit overweight at 240 and looked a little bit, I think he's dropped a little bit of that weight. And he looked good. Again, mop-up duty, but he looked pretty good. And certainly I thought it was good to get Shane Morris in the game. Without any experience behind Devin Gardner, I thought that was a huge plus for them to get Shane on that stage and give him a chance to just to see what it feels like to run a Michigan offense in a stadium like that.
With us on our Michigan Game Day segment today, Michigan beat writer Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News, helping us look back at that big 59-9 win over Central on Saturday, and now look forward to Under the Lights at the Big House too. Angelique, we know this is an entirely different atmosphere coming up Saturday with Notre Dame in town, a night game on national TV, ESPN Game Day in town to get everyone pumped up before the game. And if you are a Michigan fan, a Notre Dame fan, or a college football fan, it really does not get any better than this, does it? It
really doesn't, but apparently if you ask Brian Kelly, Notre Dame's coach, maybe it isn't that big of a national stage kind of game. In his, he had a conference call with reporters on Sunday after their win over Temple and said that he doesn't look at Michigan-Notre Dame as one of the traditional Notre Dame rivalries. He said, having been in Michigan, the state of Michigan at Central and at Grand Valley State as head coach, at both of those places, he always thought of Michigan-Notre Dame as a regional rivalry. So I think these are quotes that the Michigan players are probably going to see a lot of on their locker room walls in this next week. But yes, I think in general the college football fan, other than Brian Kelly, they look at this as a really a fun national rival. And I think we all know that Michigan's biggest rival is Ohio State and vice versa, and certainly they have an in-state rival in Michigan State, but this has been in the non-conference schedule. This has been a game that I think everybody in the country looks forward to watching. It's the two great traditions, the winningest teams, the uniforms, the helmets, the stages that these two teams play on, and in South Bend and in Ann Arbor make this a pretty magical atmosphere.
And you just mentioned Brian Kelly's contribution to bulletin board material for Michigan this week. Earlier in the summer, Coach Hoke, of course, made the chicken comments regarding Notre Dame. And do you think those kind of things, other than being fun for the media and for the fans. Do you think those kind of comments, when they do make it back to the bulletin boards in the opposing locker rooms, really do anything for the game?
I think that they help motivate the kids and keep them focused. And many years ago, during a Michigan-Ohio State week, Bo Schembechler came to the press conference, and he was someone had brought up this bulletin board thing, and he brushed it off, laughed about it, and said, "Oh, it's not really important." And I said, "Then why do coaches do it?" And he started laughing, because certainly he had done it in his career. And it's something, it's a tool, it's a motivational tool. In the end, does it have any impact on the outcome? Probably not, but I think it has a great impact on keeping focus of the players during the week, keeping their heads in practice, keeping their eye on the prize, as the cliche goes. And I think that's how bulletin board material really motivates and helps the team. Beyond that, on Saturday night, I don't think they're going to be thinking, "Oh, geez, Brian Kelly doesn't think much of us as a national rival." But during the week, I think that Brady Hoke will emphasize it, as I'm certain, as you mentioned, the chickening out comment that Brady Hoke made, referencing Notre Dame discontinuing the series after 2014 and the way they handled that. I think that Brian Kelly's probably got that on the wall, and not in context either. Brady said, "I wasn't talking about the players at Notre Dame or Coach Kelly," but I'm sure context doesn't matter in bulletin board material.
Angelique, Notre Dame had no trouble with Temple in their opener. They came away with a 28-6 victory. Tommy Rees back at quarterback, at least for right now. And the front seven on defense, they are right up there with the best in college football. Along with all of that, though, this team still has some big question marks coming into Saturday's game, don't they?
They do. I mean, Notre Dame is not a perfect team. Certainly some question marks across the board, but I do think you look at their strength, and it's their front seven, and they are going to be the main focus, and they're going to go up against a much less experienced offensive line, with the exception of Taylor Lewan and Michael Schofield at the tackles for Michigan. So I think this will be a point of emphasis for Notre Dame. They will be as good as this defensive front, and certainly as good as Tommy Rees, who has been prone to making a lot of turnovers in his career at Notre Dame. I mean, he's made 19 starts now for the Irish. We forget about that. At least I do. And he did not have any. He did not have any miscues against Temple in the opener. So that bodes well for Rees. But I still think that the history's there for that. And I think that if Michigan's defense is going to turn it on, they're going to have to turn it on and try to attack Tommy Rees and get in his head and force those kind of turnovers that Greg Madison is looking forward to this season.
Well, Angelique, as much as Michigan fans enjoyed seeing that scoreboard light up 59 times on Saturday, most of us know that's not going to happen this week. I would enjoy that, but I really don't think that's going to happen. So for better or worse, we're going to learn a lot more about this Michigan offense against this really stout Notre Dame defense, especially our three young guys in that interior.
Oh, absolutely. And vice versa. Notre Dame's going to learn a lot from playing Michigan. And really the last couple of years, Mike, I think you could argue that this, when you looked at the Michigan-Notre Dame game on the schedule, from both perspectives, to me it was a swing game. I mean, it really gave you kind of a feel for what direction the teams were going to take. And it doesn't say, oh, they're going to have a losing season if they lose, but it does give you a sense of where they're going, what they need to improve on, and where they're pretty sound. And I think both teams will take a lot out of this game. I think that Michigan, it is a hard game to call because there's a lot of youth on both rosters. But I think because it's at Michigan Stadium, it's at night, I think the home field advantage does play a role in this, and more than even the bulletin board material by the time we get to Saturday night. And I mean, Michigan's done decently well in these last 10 games. They have a 6-4 advantage against Notre Dame, and they won 2 years ago at night. They had to come back and do it, but they did it. And I think that they fed off that crowd, and I think something similar, not those kind of fireworks and dynamics that Denard Robinson and Roy Roundtree had, but I think that they're going to feed off the crowd. They're going to need to, and it'll be a close victory for Michigan.
Well, for both Notre Dame and Michigan, Angelique, again, you've got young guys. We've got them in the interior. Notre Dame has a lot of young backs and wide receivers they're going to be playing. So it's a big stage for these young guys. And I think both coaches are going to agree that, style points this time of the year, it's nice. But when you're playing a game like this, you get it any way you can. And for whichever team wins this game, this is a big springboard game, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you're right. It is not about style points. And yes, you'd want to see some dazzling throws out of Devin Gardner. You're going to want to see long runs. You want to see Dennis Norfleet break a kick return, a punt return. You want to see those kinds of things, but it is a different stage, and I don't think that's going to be what Brady Hoke preaches this week. He's going to preach just a hard-nosed, blue-collar approach, which I think is his standard coaching style, and the same with Brian Kelly, because that's what these games sort of turn out to be like. It's similar in a sense to Michigan State, although that's probably a harder hitting game than Michigan Notre Dame. It's got that kind of feel, and it's like playing your cousins, I think, in the Midwest on a national stage. So I think that this is going to be one of those games where young guys are going to make mistakes. We've seen mistakes in this rivalry before. We've seen it come down to turnovers and kicking game, and it could very well be that a similar situation on Saturday night.
Are you sort of sad, though, Angelique, to see this series come to an end, or do you sense that fans are okay with it by and large?
Mike, I've been one who I've always sort of been not amused by Notre Dame the way they kind of I thought teased the Big Ten a little bit, and want to play all the Big Ten teams but don't want to be part of the conference. And part of me is like, okay, it's been a nice relationship, move on. And I think when I posed that on Twitter, where you can have some immediate reaction from fans, I think a lot of fans still really like the Michigan fans like the Michigan-Notre Dame rivalry, and I felt a little bit in the minority there, but I'd love to see Michigan have even brief rivalries, 5, 10 games in a series against a Texas, or, even USC, go out west, I don't know, just something different. And to me, they don't need Notre Dame, and clearly Notre Dame doesn't need Michigan, so it's I'm not broken up by this, but it's been a fun rivalry to cover. We'll have one more game to cover in South Bend next year, but I'm not broken up about this at all.
No, I think it's a mixed bag. I think for those of us who were around in 1979 when the series resumed and then have been able to follow it through until next year, we have been treated to some games that most rivals and most series haven't seen. ESPN runs this stat every year, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but in the course of this series from 1979 until this year, it's very little in the way of a point spread that's determined the winner and the loser. This has been an exciting series. It
has been, and I think from the player's perspective, and I think Brady Hoke, when he was making his chickening out comments, the bottom line was he thinks it's an important rivalry nationally. It's an important rivalry for his players to play in. And again, for a lot of the reasons we said, because it really does give them an early indication of where they need to improve and what direction the program's going to take during a particular season. So I think that I think players are disappointed that they won't be able to have Notre Dame on their schedules in the future. But I think that they'll get excited if Michigan starts. I'm not, you can look at Virginia Tech down the road. I guess that's an exciting game. Of course, my alma mater, Cincinnati, that'll be a nice game for them, Mike. I'm kidding, of course. But I think for that, and I think recruiting, it's probably useful to tell kids, hey, you're going to play Notre Dame a couple times during your career, and you're going to go to South Bend a couple times. You'll see what that's like. So I think it's unfortunate for those reasons, but it's just time to move on. The landscape of college football is changing, and sadly, for a lot of people, the Michigan Notre Dame game is part of that change.
Well, absolutely. So that's what I tell folks. Enjoy Saturday night. Then next year, and we can be done with it for a while. I wouldn't be surprised down the road, though, if you see in our new BCS world a Michigan Notre Dame game. I guess what we'll have to call the postseason starting next year.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't think this is the end, but I do think they should look at it as not to be cliche, but a new beginning, and I think Dave Brandon was looking at it that way, and trying to find some new exciting teams to put on the schedule, and Arkansas, those kinds of teams that Michigan doesn't typically play, except potentially in a bowl game. So it's given them an opening, but I think that in the big picture, it's an unfortunate thing for them in terms of recruiting, and and to have that big game test so early in the season.
Our guest here on our Michigan Game Day segment as we get ready for Under the Lights at the Big House 2 has been Michigan beat writer Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News. And as always, Angelique, it's great to have your insight on Michigan and, of course, on the Michigan-Notre Dame game. And we look forward to having you back soon.
I look forward to it as well, Mike, and I appreciate you having me on the podcast very much.
As always, it's great to have the angel of the Big House, Michigan beat writer Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News on our Michigan Game Day segment. Coming up next, some final thoughts on the big game Saturday night here on Wolverine Quick Hits on the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW, Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. On Wolverine Quick Hits today, on the injury front, as we all know by now, redshirt freshman running back Drake Johnson is done for the season. He tore his ACL in the opener against Central and will undergo surgery in the coming weeks. Courtney Avery is questionable, and Joe Reynolds should be good to go on Saturday night. Devin Gardner spoke at Monday's presser and said he is wary of turnovers against Notre Dame this week. He remembers mistakes cost Michigan the game in South Bend last year, and he knows the Wolverines cannot afford to turn the ball over like that this year. He said he still needs to be bold in his play, but he has to protect the ball. Even without Drake Johnson, Michigan's depth in the backfield looks very good. With Fitz as the starter, and Derek Green now being moved to number 2 on the depth charts, we're in better shape than we've been in a long time. At Monday's presser, Coach Hoke said we would probably even see Devion Smith, Thomas Rawls, and Justice Hayes get some time this week. All of them, I thought, ran hard on Saturday. We'll just have to see if one of that bunch has the hot hand and how the rotation works against the Irish. Well, in May, we all heard Coach Hoke's comments about Notre Dame chickening out when they opted out of the series. Then this week at his Monday presser, we heard Coach Kelly say he never really saw the Michigan series as one of Notre Dame's traditional rivalries, just a nice Midwest rivalry. So the Barbs have been traded, and now it's time for the rubber to meet the road. However you view the end of this series, you have to be sad to see it come to an end, at least for now. Those of us who have been around since 1978, when the series resumed, have been treated to more than our fair share of memorable, nail-biting games, filled with great plays, heartbreaking moments, and great players. This is a game that can make a player, a Wolverine, or even a Notre Dame player, a household name, and cement them in the lore of the series. In the 29 games leading up to this Saturday, Notre Dame and Michigan are 14, 14, and 1. 20 of the 29 games have been decided on the last possession or even the last play. Try and think of any other rivalry in college football that can make that claim. I'll answer that for you. There aren't any. Under the lights at the Big House 2, it should be another dandy. ESPN Game Day will be in town, and it will be a long day of fun and preparation for Michigan fans as we await the kickoff. Game start is scheduled for 8:12 p.m. and can be seen on ESPN. Thanks again to our guest today, Lou Somogyi from Blue and Gold Illustrated. And again, I apologize for the audio quality. Lou was a busy guy on Monday, and we were talking on his cell phone, so the audio quality was not what we would have liked. And also the angel of the Big House, always great to have Michigan beat writer Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit News. Now that the season is underway, you'll need your daily fix of Michigan football. There is no better place to get it than right here at GBM Wolverine. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and become a member today. We have player profiles, recruiting news, our lively message board, plenty of chatter about the season, and the always popular Monday Night Live chat with all of our talented writers here at GBM Wolverine. So don't delay. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and join today. Make sure you're in the Wolverine loop this season. Don't forget our show app is now available from a variety of sources. For Android users, we're in the Market Store at Amazon.com. For Apple devices, our app is available in the iTunes Store. Another great way to tune us in for free is with the TuneIn Radio app. You can also hear the show on Stitcher Radio on demand. Download the free app at www.stitcher.com. Get the latest episodes faster on Stitcher, where the latest shows continuously update. Our phone lines are open for your calls 24/7, and we would love to hear from you. Give us your prediction for this season. Talk about the Notre Dame game. Anything you would like to, Maize and Blue. Call 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. You can also email your thoughts and opinions to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. Give us a shout anytime. Also, if you get the show from iTunes, please take a few minutes to give us a review. It helps a bunch. So whatever happens on Saturday, we'll be right back here next week to look back on the Notre Dame game and then look ahead to a visit from the Mid-American Conference's Akron Zips. So enjoy Under the Lights at the Big House 2. This is the last time the Fighting Irish will be in the Big House, at least for the foreseeable future. This one has the makings of another classic between these two storied traditions, regardless of what Coach Brian Kelly says. So think victory, and let's hope we can keep the mistakes to a minimum and bring home a victory on Saturday night. Until next week, I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone, and as always, but especially on Saturday evening, go Blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. You can find us on the web at www.gbmwolverine.com. That's www.gbmwolverine.com. For audio posts or other fan feedback, please call our listener line at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Email fan feedback to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan. The Michigan Man Podcast is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!